Hi, I'm Karima Brown. It's Sunday and it's time for The Fix.
I want to say to you, we are not going to privatize ESCOM. We are going to strengthen ESCOM. We have decided that we should act immediately by providing relief of 300 million to the Northern Cape to help with the drought so that we can address this drought situation.
First up, the ANC is in the hot seat as we dig deeper into the party's ability to make good on the promises it made yesterday at the January the 8th rally. Then we look at the conflict in the Gulf following the assassination of Qassem Soleimani and its far-reaching political, economic and security ramifications for the globe. And as is custom, we look at what's made newspaper headlines and why. The Fix starts now. Welcome to this edition of The Fix, where every Sunday we hold decision makers to account. We tell you why it matters, how it affects you and why you should care. Welcome back. You are, of course, watching The Fix with me, Karima Brown. Now, the crisis between Iran and the US continues to be on the boil following the assassination of Qassem Soleimani. To give us an Iranian perspective on what we can expect, I am now joined in the studio by Middle East expert Saeed Hoseini. Mr. Hoseini, good morning.
It's a
welcome to the program and welcome to The Fix. Now, I've been very deliberate in my introduction saying I want an Iranian perspective. There are, of course, not one Iranian perspective, but in countries such as South Africa, we are generally given the crisis that is happening in the Middle East through the eyes of mostly Western media. So let me start off by the very latest information. The Iranians have now acknowledged that they have shot down the Ukrainian plane in error. How does this happen? Given the fact that the Revolutionary Guard said that it used precision missiles. Was this a mistake on the part of the Iranians? And more importantly, does it now escalate the tensions with the countries who have lost their citizens on that plane? And in fact, of course, most of those people were Iranian.
Well, of course, first of all, I say condolences to the people who they lost their loved ones, but I want everyone to put themselves into that scenario, in that picture. You have lost your, beloved commander, and you take revenge. You have hit for the first time in 80 years an American base in Iraq. And they have said, if you hit, I'm going to retaliate. And I hit about 52 points in Iran. So it was in the highest number of alert everywhere in the country. See anything, just shoot. And all of a sudden, somebody next to the airport sees somebody, something is passing over a military base. Immediately what comes to you is the same cruise which is about to hit somewhere. What about if it was a cruise and if it was not shooting it?
But isn't it a failure on the part of the Iranian government and its Revolutionary Guard to be able to distinguish between a plane and a missile or a drone coming from the US?
Well, that's why they say it's a human mistake, or it's whatever. What they said is that they recognized it as a cruise, so they hit. However, it was a big mistake, and it was a deadly mistake. It was something terrible, which all of the sweetness of what happened during the funeral of General Soleimani was bittered by the sorrow and the pain of the whole, nation. Personally, I cried. So many people are really, wounded with this, and it's a heartfelt sorrow that not only the families of these victims of this, falling down. Every single person in Iran is now full of sorrow and pain, and that's something that we won't forget.
Mr. Hoseini, you speak very personally about how you experience what is going on in Iran. And you, of course, have a long history as an Iranian yourself. You fought during the Iran-Iraq war. You obviously relate to the political elite inside that country. For many people around the world, it was very difficult to understand who Qassem Soleimani was. There isn't really an equivalent in the world to the position that he occupied in Iran. And that's part of the problem. A lot of Western countries don't understand how Iran actually functions. 7 million people in Tehran came out in support of his funeral. He was mourned across 3 countries over 4 days. People died in the funeral procession. Tell us why Soleimani was so significant in Iran, and why the protesters, for example, just months before that, who was opposing the Iranian regime, demanding reforms, were prepared to come out and mourn for this man.
Well, to talk about him, we need probably hours, but in a nutshell, he was a selfless person whom their whole life was struggling for the sake of people, in the side of people, representing people. And he was so humble that you can't even recognize that he is a general when he meets you and he talks to you. You know, he is a person whom, when he goes to the army, he kisses the hands of his soldiers. During the time that he was going overseas, he never get any money for, you know, overseas operations or
so
missions.
So he was seen
whatever.
almost like a Che Guevara, if you like, if one wants to kind of have a comparison.
Multiply it by 100. Che Guevara multiply by 100.
Now, let's talk about your understanding of the role that he played. He was, of course, the head of the Quds Force,
Yes.
which is unique because they specialized in asymmetrical engagements with the U.S. Everyone knows the U.S. has, you know, superior firepower than Iran, but Iran has been able to build alliances with supporters of its objectives, which is to get rid of U.S. presence in the Gulf. How did Soleimani's death affect that stratagem deployed by Iran, which has assisted it essentially in you know, outfoxing the U.S. on many occasions?
Well, he was dealing with the hearts of people, and the hearts of nations in Middle East were with General Soleimani, and he had an extremely well-mannered strategic negotiation ability that you just have a half-an-hour meeting with Putin and bring Putin into the war in Syria. You have a little bit of a negotiation with the different parties in Iraq, and the next thing the Prime Minister is coming out. Little bit of a negotiation with the different parties in Lebanon, and the Prime Minister is coming out. You know, somebody was asked him once after defeat of Qalibaf that okay, now your friend lost the election, so come into the election area and you will be the next president of Iran. He said, you know, I'm playing role in appointing presidents in the region. I mean, I don't want to become a president. He is so influential that everyone respects him. All parties, no matter who they are, respecting him. And he really played a great role in bringing freedom and salvation to the region.
That was then, of course. Let's focus on the here and now. We've got President Trump using the killing of Soleimani as part of his election campaign in the U.S. The U.S. is not responding with one voice on this matter. We've seen it. But most importantly, analysts have said that there isn't actually an escalation that is going to happen. This actually, the retaliation by Iran, in a way kind of measured out the assassination of Soleimani, and that we have an opportunity to put the nuclear deal that Trump rejected back on the table. Do you agree with that understanding?
the retaliation carried by Iran is not measured out it's not equal to, I don't think anyone is equal to. They said the equal to the assassination of General Soleimani is when Americans leave the region. But that process has started. The message which was carried out with that attack was that, first of all, we don't have any intention of killing you, but we are able to. And the retaliation that they have carried, yesterday I think CNN journalists and some of the other medias were there, the amount of destruction is contrary to what Trump said, minimum. He said minimum in his lecture, in his talking, when the first reaction that he had, but it was maximum. So in other words, if there were people there in that base, probably we had 1,500 casualties. So
if the idea was to crow to the enemy from the Iranian perspective, saying, I'm not killing you, but I can if I want to,
yes.
How does it strengthen Iran's negotiations position when they want to deal with the issue of sanctions and the issue of, the demand that Iran stop with any attempts to build a nuclear weapon?
Already they have the retaliation of Iran already taught a lesson to the American. That's why they didn't react. They said very openly, if you hit any base of America or kill anyone, we will hit 52 points. And after 20 hours, he comes and says, I want peace with Iran. That means they got the message that this nation is powerful. They have got the capability. They are not bluffing what they say. So let us now deal with another way. So it changed the scenario. Otherwise, if there was any weakness showed from the side of Iran, definitely the next position was, yes, let us deal with them, send missiles to those 52 places, and the Third World War was going to start.
Now, of course, the theatre in which all of this was playing out is Iraq. And many Iraqis are saying they want, in fact, the parliament has decided that all troops must leave Iraq and that they refuse to be the playground of superpowers and regional powers at the cost of the Iraqi people. Is Iran going to adhere to that? Because you don't have troops in Iraq, but there are militias that are, of course, aligned to the objectives of Iran.
Well, we are, as you said, we are not there to leave, so it doesn't include us. Those who are there, they must leave. And if the army of Iraq or the Hashd al-Shabi or a popular mobilization force wants us to give them consultation, we will be there, as that was the only status we have, consultative status. If they want to continue, we will give them, but if they don't want, I mean, there is no obligation.
Final question.
But American and other forces, they have to leave Iraq.
No, I think that people generally who study Middle Eastern affairs know that that is the end game for Iran.
Exactly.
But of course it's the end game. What is the immediate next step for Iran, though?
Well, what happened by Iran, the retaliation, it was just in the part of Iran to take revenge of General Soleimani. Still, the popular mobilization force of Iraq has not taken revenge of their commander, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. We are expecting one of these days for them to retaliate also. What is going to be the reaction of America against the retaliation which they are going to receive in coming days? That is not known. Let us see how it happens and how they retaliate and how Americans are going to react. All of these things are going to be known in a very coming soon.
All right. Mr. Hoseini, thank you so very much for your time, and thank you for giving us insight from an Iranian perspective on the matter. And as you say, the next few days is going to be crucial, so we're keeping our eyes glued to Iraq. Still ahead, we look at the promises made by the African National Congress yesterday at its January 8th rally.